Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking in this week's episode of We'll Fix It Team. What have we got ourselves into today? So, you remember last week, if you watched the video of me doing some diagnosing on a AC system, and noticed that there we seem like we think we've got a bad expansion valve. Let me get the part here, and I'll show you what it looks like. So, we do this work because we like what we do. Some stuff I have a lot of flow of vehicles, so pulling a dashboard out is something I have to kind of plan around. You see where I'm going with this. So here's our expansion valve. Book time gave 1.4 hours to change. Okay, so I was like, all right. Luckily, I haven't given a price on the vehicle, and it'll be a fair price. But once I did some research, the way that the All Data wanted to list this repair, itemized removals. In other words, you need to know that you have to take more out than just, normally I'll show you. Normally you would see this expansion valve somewhere at the firewall here, or where you could get to it. I pulled it back. I didn't see anything. So I was like, okay. And so I looked in between the dash stuff over there, and we'll get to that in a second. And I was like, well, maybe it'll come out between that if I take this one section out. Let me show you where we're at. I got in there, and I'm going to show you. Maybe you remember, but I've got the light on the expansion valve. That's the manifold that bolts on the front. You see two. It's a terrible light for glare, but you see there's a line at the top and the bottom, and so that's where it's at. I'm like, okay, so maybe I can pull this part right here out and be able to get down into the side of it. So I moved the dash cover so I could get to some of the hardware that holds it in, and once I got to looking, the lines actually are held in by this support bracket, which is made onto the airbox assembly, looped in from the bottom there. So if I were to try to remove this section right here, I would damage these lines or break that, that holdy thingy. We'll call it that. The technical name for that is holdy thingy. And so what I found out is it looks like I'm going to have to remove this front panel, dash panel out. And to do that, I got to get the steering column out and unbolt it out, slide it out of there, because that's all one piece that goes underneath. It doesn't have a cover that comes off. And we'll get that off, and I've got to take the radio out because it's got some stuff holding on. Then you'll see the bare bones part of the dash, which is the the actual framework behind it here. And I don't think I've got to take the whole framework out. I think once I get this dash cover out, this console out of the way, I can remove these bars right here. And of course, I'll have all these lines disconnected for the switch panel and all. And then I'll be able to unhook the lines under the hood, the heater core lines, and the AC lines, which I bought the tool for. I'll show you that in a second. And slide the whole airbox out as an assembly. And then I can disassemble the airbox on the floor, get the evaporator core out, or, where I can get the stupid lines. No joke. So that's what I'm doing. And I'll show you the front here. So there is the heater core line connections that go in. Those are the AC lines that snap on with these weird looking little snappy snaps. You can't just put a screwdriver and break those apart because you'll have an issue on hand. This is the set that should work. I'll be probably using this bigger set here. I think that this is supposed to cover these Toyota years, so we'll see what happens. Yep. Wasn't prepared in the schedule of work for this. It's kind of thrown a wrench of monkiness into the mix of the vehicle repairage. But it's work. They're nice people. So we're gonna hold the line, push forward there, right? Thank you for tuning in. Be right back. All right, so we've gotten to where we can start taking the airbox apart. Let me show you the inside of the vehicle. Right here. No, not right there. Right here. There is I'm missing a few parts there. Like I said, we took out the steering column, got that out of the way so we could get the dash cover out. Once we got the dash cover off, we got the shifter, which is still hooked up. I just got it sitting over here, but all the stuff that it hooked to, the bars, I took those out. There's one of them is back here, the other one's over here. And we've got the just basically I had to take this off and disconnect it from, I left all the wiring on it. I just pulled the bolts loose and then took some hardware off. Over top here, there was a few bolts right here and one hidden one over here in the back corner. And got those off, and I was able to move this bar up enough to where I could tip the air box. I tipped it top side towards me, and as you can see, the lines go through the firewall. And something you want to be really careful with, it comes with AC, air conditioning and stuff, is you don't want any dirt in the system. So I found me some plugs that I had laying around. I cleaned them off really well, so there's no dirt on them. I'm going to plug those off to keep dirt from getting in that connection point from me either pulling it out or putting it back in. And then I just used some tape and taped off the lines really well, so we didn't try to reduce the amount of moisture that gets in there. So this is the air box on the floor here, or the duct work, whatever you want to call it, air handler. You've got your blower motor in the bottom here. You can see down in there the squirrel cage. And like I say, back here is the expansion valve, so I've got to take this off. I've got to take some of the other hardware off that's here, and then I should be able to get. I may have to pull this thing right. These lines being held in. I'll have to deal with that right there. We want to get that loose, and we want to retain this as best as possible to keep everything steady. So I'll start tearing it down, and we'll get to that expansion valve one way or another. So when you do this job, you'll get the airbox out and you'll question, why did I take the airbox completely out? Because there is an aspect to where you could possibly change this part without pulling the airbox completely out, but you're going to run into a problem. One of them is, let me show you. Behind where this thing is all sandwiched together, you've got this insulation right here. And a lot of it's sandwiched in behind that cover. And if you take this expansion valve off, this insulation is going to be everywhere. And you're not going to be able to you can probably pick it all out, but you got to keep dirt out of the system. You've got to be very careful to do that. And so by taking the evaporator core out of the airbox, which once I got it on the floor wasn't that bad. And once I got to the point where I was going to just take the one top part off, it wasn't that, another half an hour later I had the whole thing out. And so now I can actually get in there and get all that cleaned up properly. So when I install the new expansion valve, I don't have to worry about any debris getting in the area. Now, I hope it fixes it. We're going to find out. Looking at the meters or the gauges, it looks like we've got something like that happening. And we're going to get it back together and we'll see what happens. So this is the halfway point. Now I'm going to go ahead and get it swapped out into the movie magic. We'll get it all back together and we'll send the video out. All right, I think we got it fixed. Let's look and see what this valve's doing. Let's get the pressure and see how it works. Let's take a look. Notice it's not spiking, and it's typical to go up a little bit and fluctuate because the valve is actually designed to do that. But you don't want to see it creeping way over here and then hanging up and then kind of going back and doing its thing. This looks like it's functioning properly right now. Seems to be doing really well. That's what we want right there. Let's take a look and see what this dash looks like now that I got it all back together. And we're going to see what our temperature is. Ambient temperature outside is it's not very hot today. We're out this morning. It's kind of chilly. I got a jacket on, but take a look at this. This is step out so you can see we've got it all back intact, looking real good. Floorboards all nice and cleaned out, no leftover hardware. And I used 2 gauges because one was like, I know it feels colder than 50 degrees. This thing must be old and stuck. I tapped on it. Look at that. But the one above it, because you can look at the window. There's fog in that window up. It's so cold. And we're burying the gauge back in the other direction. So that would be, let's see, if you look at the increments, that's 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, all the way to 100. So 55, 45. 40, 35, 30, and it's getting down below. So if it's 70, 68, 70 right now, why do I have a jacket on? I don't know. It's used to hot weather. I didn't take my jacket off, but we're looking at a possible 30 to 35 degree difference, and that shows a working AC system. This is a going down the road shot. We're going to take it down the road. We have now we have went below. Okay, there we go. Let's look at that. Keep an eye on that gauge. Windshield wiper slapping out a tempo. Right. The beeping seatbelt. Looking good so far. We're driving down the road and we're keeping a steady negative, probably 28 degrees or better. Okay, hold on. Let me put my seatbelt on. All right, so far it's holding. Yes, so it looks like we've got this problem under control. I do want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please click the like, subscribe, and share button on this video so it can get out to other people, because like I said, I have not seen anything related to a matrix on the YouTubes. I looked. And so maybe this video can help somebody that's specifically working on that vehicle, because I think they are kind of problematic amongst Toyotas. Have a wonderful week ahead.